The ancient Supreme Court in Jerusalem functioned as an assembly of dynamic scholars, debating the law through rigorous logic in sunlit study halls. These judges carried a specific biblical responsibility to act as architects. They were legally mandated to build a protective perimeter around the nation's core constitution to ensure its survival. To construct this perimeter, they used a legal mechanism called a Gezerah, which translates to a protective decree. A Gezerah functions as a buffer. It is designed to stop a citizen from accidentally transgressing a fundamental written law by placing a preventative restriction directly in front of it. This system created an immediate political tension. On the surface, it appeared to grant an intellectual elite the power to legislate every minute detail of human life. To understand this legal system, we have to see the court as engineers of society's boundaries. This makes the threat of judicial overreach the central conflict of their entire civilization. We can see this engineering in a classic historical test case. The core, original law, explicitly forbids only the mixing of mammalian meat with dairy, essentially prohibiting the cooking of a calf in its mother's milk. As the ancient society became more urbanized, the court identified a behavioral risk. They recognized that the public was likely to confuse poultry with beef, leading them to treat both types of meat the same way in the kitchen. The court expanded the prohibition to include poultry, creating a definitive legal shield against confusing the original law. But this raises a question about authority. Does the court possess power to ban any behavior simply because they deem it a societal risk? While possessing intellectual authority, the poultry example shows how easily a small group of scholars could dictate an entire nation's dietary habits. To remain stable, the system required a structural counterweight. That counterweight wasn't found in the grand study halls, but out in the bustling, everyday reality of the ancient citizenry. A decree is not law simply because the court declares it. The supreme constitutional limit is that the court must first correctly assess whether the public actually has the capacity to bear the burden of the new rule. We find the ultimate precedent of failure in a decree by Ezra. He required men to submerge in a mikveh, or ritual bath, before praying if they had been with their wives the night before. The sovereign citizenry found this daily requirement unsustainable. They simply stopped practicing it, regardless of the court's intellectual reasoning. This public rejection had a strict legal consequence. Because the nation did not adopt the practice, the legislation was automatically voided and annulled. The court holds no legal mechanism to enforce a law that a free society rejects. In this system, the public holds an immediate and total veto. Surviving the initial rollout is only the first test of a law's legitimacy. The harder question is what happens when a decree persists for decades, even as the public's commitment begins to fade. A law's authority is not secured by its history, but is perpetually tied to the lived practice of the people. When the data shows public adherence dropping significantly across generations, the law loses its foundation. If a future Supreme Court observes that only a small minority of strict adherents still follow the decree, the law has essentially failed. At that point, the later court has the absolute legal authority to formally cancel the original law, using public noncompliance as their primary metric. Theory does not dictate legal validity here. Lived generational practice is the final measurement of whether a law exists at all. When the opposite happens, when the entire nation universally embraces and practices a protective decree, the law undergoes a transformation. Universal consensus moves the law into a state of permanent canonization. It transcends the authority of the very court that originally wrote it. Once a law is fully accepted, it becomes an irrevocable part of the constitutional code, meaning no future court or prophet has the power to repeal it. And this logic traces back to the original covenant at Mount Sinai. The entire legal system began as a voluntary contract, which established a fundamental axiom for the future. Because the Torah passed from the realm of the sky to the hands of men, it became bound by the rules of human contract. If the system is built on a voluntary covenant, then a law can only be valid when a free nation consents to it. While the rabbinic elite holds the intellectual authority to draft the law, the power of ratification and endurance rests permanently in the hands of the citizenry.